It took me just a little bit of time to figure out how I can take this snake pattern and simplify it to a point that I can show you how I made it. And we're going to make this pattern by only drawing 2 lines. I have a canvas here of 2048 by 2048. I'm using the monoline brush. I duplicated it and increased my stabilization to 71% so I get a nice smooth line. The canvas is, like I said, 2048 by 2048. It's a square canvas. We're going to go over to the Actions menu, which is the wrench or spanner up at the top left, and go to Canvas. And then I'm going to turn on the drawing guide. I will edit the drawing guide. That's right here. And down here at the bottom, where it says grid size, we're going to change that from 65 to 512. Tap on Done, and this gives us 16 even squares on our canvas. I'm going to change the guideline color to purple, just for a change. Up my opacity all the way to max, and then tap on Done. And then we are going to use these 4 squares here to make our pattern with. We're going to make a curve that goes like this and has a dip in it. And then we're going to make an S curve here, and that will complete our pattern. So let's start with our first line. You notice I'm going below the crosses there. And that's fairly good. I want to smooth out this middle, so I'm going to erase this part of it. And do that. And of course that creates little jogs because it's a large area to span. So I delete where the little jog is. There we go. And we'll do the same thing here. Might be able to just erase this edge. Yeah, that looks okay. So that gives us a smoother curve going around. And I want the line to go above this purple horizontal line. So I'm going to erase this part here. And put that on there. Want it to be solid black up to that line. We'll get rid of the extra in a minute. And now we do our S curve, which is going to go from here to here. Once again, finishing above the horizontal grid. So I'll just erase this part of it and make that slightly more shallow. There we go. And there we go. We have our 2 lines that are going to make this scale pattern. First thing I want to do is use the transform tool that's up at the top left. It's the arrow. My snapping, I have magnetics and snapping on. My distance is set to 10, and my velocity is set to 1.6. And I'm going to drag this straight down until it snaps to the side. Then I'm going to go over here. We're going to be using this corner to match everything up. So we're going to go down to this bottom right corner, and it looks like I'm going to have to get rid of 2 pixels worth of stuff. To do that, I hit my transform tool, and then I tap below the the yellow box right here in the middle. And I go tap once and tap twice. I then turn the transform tool off and check my work. That looks pretty good. Let's see how this looks. That also looks pretty good. And now we're going to slide to the right to square off this bottom right line. Zoom in, and it looks like we need 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5, but let's try 4 pixels going to the right. So I hit my transform tool, and this time I'm going to tap to the right of the middle blue dot once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. Turn the transform off, zoom down here and check, and it's almost a solid line here. I'm just going to use my stylus and fill that in. That looks good. And then we want to square off this top, and we want to square off this bottom left. So I'm going to hit my transform tool and slide all the way up till it stops. And then I want to go just a little bit further until I get this yellow line right here. That shows that it's touching the middle. We turn off the transform and we look up here, and you can see that that is not hitting this point right here. So I'm going to erase a portion of this line. I'm going to start right here at this corner and draw just a little S curve, give a nice little artistic jog, and there we go. Now we want to get this portion squared off. So I'm going to once again transform. I'm going to move to the left until it stops, and then go a little bit further to get this yellow line. This one right here. You can see if I'm off the middle, it's purple. If I'm on the middle, it's a yellow-orange color. And there we go. Turn the transform off, zoom in, and that's nicely squared off. Very good. And now all we have to do is drag this over here. We're going to duplicate layer 1, drag the duplicate in place of that one, and then I'm going to flip it horizontal. So we turn the transform off, and we should have a perfect meeting in the middle, and we do. We merge layer 1 down. We're going to duplicate it again, transform tool, and we're going to just let it snap to the middle as we draw it down. And when we zoom in on these corners, they should be exactly right, and this one is off. So I must have accidentally slid it over a bit. That's why we check. And now it's a perfect match. And we can merge these 2 layer 1s together. All right, and honestly, this right here makes a nice pattern, but it doesn't look very 3D. I will show you that now. We'll go up to our little brush here. Let's go to the KA patterns. I'm going to create a scale 15 brush. So I'm going to click on plus. On about this brush, I'm going to make it scale 15. And give that a done. And we're going to be changing the grain here, but we need to have the image to do that. So I'm going to tap on layer 1, invert, tap on it and say copy, tap on it and invert it again. I'm going to create a new layer and turn off layer 1. Now on our scale 15 brush, we go in here and in grain, we're going to do edit, import, and paste. And then we will tap done until we are out. Well, actually, before we do that, here in the grain source, we want the zoom to go from cropped all the way down to follow size. Under rendering, we want to use the light glaze. Then we want to go down to Apple Pencil and change the opacity all the way down to none. Now we can tap on done there, and we can paint on this scale pattern, which, it looks okay, but coloring this in and making it look 3D would be horrendous. Let's go back into scale 15. I'm going to go to properties, and I'm going to change the maximum size to 400. And we'll tap on done. And as you can see, that makes the scales larger. You can make them smaller again. But once again, coloring these in and then making them all look 3D would take a long time. So we're going to duplicate our layer 1. And then the first thing we want to do is apply a little extra color to it, just flat color. So I'm going to go to my color picker. I'm going to go just above the middle. We don't want it this dark, but let's put it, like right about there. That's good. And then we're going to drag this into these 3 and these 2 here, because the 2 at the bottom are the top part of the one at the top. And then I'm going to go to about a quarter, and we'll color the rest of them in there. Now when we do our invert, copy, invert back, turn that off and create a new layer. Let's go into the scale 15, go to the grain, not the shape, and do edit, import, paste, and tap done. We now have a stripe pattern, which on the light gray really doesn't do too well. But if we bring this up to flat black, there we go. And already it's looking better. You're getting a stripe pattern for your snake or dragon, maybe some mer people. So here we got that. I'm going to delete this. I am now going to duplicate both of these layer 1s. I'm going to put the bottom layer 1 on top of the top layer 1. This one and this one we're going to leave alone. These 2, I'm going to slide them both to the right and then group them together. That way we can create our shading pattern. And I'm going to add 2 layers to this. Layer 6 here for me, I'm going to make multiply. And layer 7, I'm going to make screen. We'll go down to layer 6. We'll go to our color picker, and we're going to choose that 1/4 gray there. And on our cursor, we're going to go down to airbrushing. And I duplicated my soft brush to create soft brush 1. And under Apple Pencil, I changed the size to 74%. And what that allows me to do is if I am dragging lightly, I get a small line. And the harder I drag, the larger the line is. So we're on the multiply layer here. And what we're going to do is go down to the regular soft brush. The soft brush 1 is for our highlights. The soft brush is for our shading. And our highlights are going to go onto the bottom right of our scales here. So that means that we're going to have a large amount of shading on this side and just a small amount of shading on that side. If I start at 10% and I trace this line until I get to the middle and then let it go over the line like that, that gives us a large shadow on the left and a smaller shadow on the right. Now we're going to use our selection tool. That's the S ribbon. It's on automatic. And that doesn't work for me. Let's take layer 1 here, make it a reference, and then back to layer 6, and we can select those 3 tiles and clear. And this gets us the top of our shine over here. However, we're going to have a shine on this one, which means we need a thin shadow right down here. And we'll do our selection and clear out these 2. Actually, these 3, yes. Tap and clear. And that gives us everywhere that this particular scale is going to get shading. If I duplicate my layer 1, I'm going to duplicate it twice. I'm going to duplicate my layer 6 twice. And then the top layer 1 and the top layer 6, I'm going to drag halfway down till it snaps to the middle. And that shades the beginning of our other fish scale. I can now delete this layer 1. I'm going to take this layer 1 and the second layer 6, and we're going to slide them up. And that completes the shading for the other tile. I can delete this layer 1, merge these 3 layer 6s together, and then I need to get these under shading. And they're going to be shaded a lot on this side and a very little bit on that side. To get this right, we're going to slide the whole thing over. So I'm going to duplicate my new group, and I'm going to take one group and slide it to the left, and one group and slide it to the right, and that puts our smaller tiles right there where we want them. If we expand these groups, take the bottom groups, layer 1 under layer 1, layer 7 under layer 7, layer 6 under layer 6, and layer 1 goes under layer 1, but you got to be careful to make sure that it goes into the group. If you accidentally take this bottom layer 1, and look at me having problems even doing it, and it is not in the group, just simply tap on New Group up here and do a combine down, and that will put that layer 1 at the bottom there. Now we're going to merge these layers together, merge the 1s, merge the 7s, merge the 6s, and merge these 1s. There we go. And we can delete the empty group. So now we're ready to put the shading on the middle tiles. I'm going to duplicate my layer 6, and I'm going to clear that top layer 6 now, and I am ready to start shading. Once again, we're on the soft brush at 10%. We're on this empty layer 6, and we're going to put a thick shadow on this side, but we need to make sure that it doesn't go past this cross point here. So I do my thick shading and stop right there. And then I use my selection tool, select the tiles outside, and I can tap and clear. On the other side of this, we're going to want a thin shadow. Since this is at an angle, it's going to be a very thin shadow that peters out before it even reaches the cross. Once again, we select the tiles outside and clear. And we now have the shading for this tile. We're going to do the same thing we did before to duplicate layer 6, or if you're feeling brave, duplicate layer 6 and just drag it down until it's right there at the middle, and check to see if it's okay, no gaps, and if it is, you're good to go. We can now merge all of our layer 6s together. Layer 7, which is our highlight layer, it's under screen. We're going to choose our soft brush 1, which is at 5%, and we're going to put little shiny things in. Now, once again, this is going to be difficult. We're going to want to shade there. Give it a little extra shine at the bottom. And then we want a upside down teardrop right there. We select the tiles around, and then we clear. And that looks really nice. Now, I'm not really confident that I can do this, but I'm going to try it. I'm going to duplicate this layer. I'm going to drag it down to here. And yeah, I'm not able to get that exactly right, am I? So I'm going to delete it. I'm going to duplicate layer 1, duplicate layer 7, select the top of each, and then just go down by half. And it's perfect. I can now delete this top layer 1, merge my 2 layer 7s together. I'm going to duplicate that and then clear the top one, because we're going to need that to do our other tiles. Once again, we duplicate the whole group, slide one to the left and one to the right, halfway. And put our layers underneath each other. Layer 1, layer 7, other layer 7, layer 6, and other layer 1. And then we can delete the new group. We need to do a combine down because that layer 1 right there did not end up in the group. So we do combine down, and that puts it in there for us. We'll merge the like layers together. Layer 1, layer 7, other layer 7, layer 6, and other layer 1. And we'll go up to the empty layer 7. And we are now going to do our highlights on this one. And then copy it down to the other one. So I want to give the impression that there's a bit of a bulge right there. So I'm just going to make an opposite curve slightly off. It's not exactly centered because remember, our light is coming from this direction. And then I'm going to select this tile and do a clear. And then I'm going to put our teardrop right there. Let's grab this and clear just in case. And then I'm going to duplicate layer 1, duplicate layer 7, take the top 2, down by half, delete this layer 1, and merge all 3 layer 7s together. Then I'm going to duplicate this new group, move this one down to here, and turn it off. And this one I'm going to flatten. And you can see that preserves the shading and the highlights. So we're going to do an invert, copy, invert, turn that off, create a new layer. For me, that's layer 9. And we're going to go back into our patterns, scale 15. We'll do an edit, import, paste, and give that a done, and a done. Let's choose black. And we're going to color this on here. And we have 3-dimensional scales with highlights and shadows automatically. If you want to colorize this, just like in my last video, we're going to create a new layer and set it to color. Choose a color. Looks like we're choosing green. And we can drag and drop that into here. Whoops. Got to take that reference off. There we go. And we have green tiles. You want darker green? You can do that too. And the advantage to this is our lines remain black, our whites remain white, and the transitions take on the color of the scales that you have picked. If we were to draw this in using the green, it will still work. But it's going to be semi-transparent in a lot of places. So you would have to create a new layer, drag and drop into it. Oh, better choose a different color. Let's go with a blue. And you can see that this really does strange things. We'll do white. And then you'd have to merge these two together. And that gives you, oops, merge these two together. And that gives you a solid amount of colors in there, which you can then go into your hue, saturation, and brightness. You can darken it up, make it brighter. You can change the amount of saturation, and you can cycle through various colors. My preferred method is this one, just because I think it has a better look to it. All right then. I hope that this has helped you out, and I hope you have a wonderful day.